Dracula versus 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah, so this came up in my head and then I decided, you know what, I need to work this out. And if I put that much time in it, I might as well share it. Because I see some similarities. You won't believe it, but there are, and I've made a list. I'm actually surprised myself at the outcome of the list. 50 Shades of Grey is about a man who abuses women and throws them away as empty husks. Dracula is about an ancient evil vampire who sucks people dry and throws them away as empty husks, after which they turn into vampires. A fairly short time span. Both books happen in less than a year. Dracula starts as a somewhat chatty travel book with red flags right from the beginning. 50 Shades starts as your run-of-the-mill romance novel with a heroine that's very unsure about herself and she doesn't look good. And yet she does look good and all the men are totally in love with her. 50 Shades, and I mean it's off topic, but 50 Shades lost me right in the beginning because she looks at the wall and sees some art. And I'm an artist, so this is something that I feel strongly about. And of course I feel very strongly about this one. Everything else is white. Ceiling, floors and walls, except on the wall by the door, where a mosaic of small paintings hang, 36 of them arranged in a square. Okay, English is not my first language, but this is a really weird sentence. Okay, they are exquisite, a series of mundane, forgotten objects painted in such precise detail, they look like photographs. If you also watch my other art channel, you know my opinion of art that looks like photographs. Art that looks like photographs. No, art that looks like photographs isn't art. It is a recreated photograph. There's nothing art about it. Sorry, I already hate this book. 50 Shades of Grey also has red flags right from the beginning. These red flags continue throughout the book and the next book and the next book. It is incredible. You keep thinking like, okay, this is the moment you need to get out. This is the moment you need to get out. This is the moment you need to get out. Red flags in both books. The beginning of Dracula's old Jonathan, gullible. Takes him a while, but he gets the red flags at some point. Anastasia Steele never gets the red flag. The flags become bigger and bigger and bigger. She never gets it. As a book trope, I'll put them in the same, but I think with 50 Shades it's not the protagonist, I think it's the writer who writes red flags and doesn't realize they're red flags. So while we would say red flag, run, but she never does because he's so romantic. Okay, no, different. If the writer puts in red flags but doesn't know that they are red flags, that's on her. That means it's different in the book, because in the world of the book it suddenly doesn't matter that they're red flags, right? It does matter, but okay, no, not the same. Backbone. Jonathan has backbone, and for the rest of the story we're going to equate Anastasia Steele as Lucy. Both the victim of a stalking predator. Lucy has a backbone, Jonathan has a backbone, Anastasia Steele has less of a backbone than a mollusk. Not the same. The protagonist has a mysterious, unexplained, but also irresistible attraction for the predator who's stalking her. Anastasia Steele, just like in Twilight, has an irresistible attraction for Christian Grey for reasons that are unexplained, but he is completely obsessed with her. Lucy does not have an irresistible attraction for Dracula. She's just there, she's handy, and he wants to suck somebody's blood, so he's going to suck hers. Not the same. The predator has a mysterious power over their victim. They stop them from sharing so they could get help. That is typical abuser tactics. Christian Grey is doing that with a non-disclosure agreement, which he wants Anastasia Steele to sign, which she does without reading. Dracula has a mystical power over his victims, and they cannot talk about what's happening to them. They don't really know what's happening to them, but they're scared. They've got scary dreams. They've got images in their head. They cannot share that something's happening to them. So, yeah. In both books, the predator stops their victims from sharing, which would allow them to get help. Score. Escape. Let me see. Lucy does not escape. Lucy dies. She's got a bad ending. And Anastasia Steele, I don't care how it is written, has a bad ending. She marries her stalking abuser. And he will be whittling away, small cut by small cut, at her personality until there's nothing left. And she's also the husk of a human being, the undead. They both end badly. I'm going to give that a same. So, let's get to the antagonist. The stalking, abusive predator. Gray is a stalking, abusive predator, psychologically and physically, under the guise of BDSM, which it isn't. He finds small brown-haired girls, stalk them, and completely control every aspect of their lives. Dracula stalks his victims and drinks their blood until they're dead. I would say most of their MO is the same. Stalking, sucking dry, death. Leave people as empty husks as walking on dead. Yeah, same. Our next point is technology, especially the use of sophisticated, up-to-date modern technology. Now, of course, Dracula is famously very much in the protagonist using the latest and the most sophisticated of the technologies, all brand new, by the way, that were at their disposal in the 1890s. But it's not so in 50 Shades of Grey. Both protagonists are particularly old-fashioned and behind the times, especially as young people. Anastasia Steele is a student without a laptop computer. How is it even possible? She uses the computer because she communicates with Christian Grey in emails. And he gives her a laptop computer. The thing is, she doesn't have a computer. She doesn't Google stuff either, even when she's on other people's computers. It just blows my mind. Okay, so he gives her a computer, of course, and later on he gives her an expensive iPad. I don't think it's in the book, but I mean, I'm almost sure Grey would have had all these items loaded up with spyware and GPS, so we can always know where she is, what she's doing, turning her webcam on, listening into her conversations, reading her emails, reading her text. It's not in the book because neither of them use sophisticated technology, but it should be in the book because that is exactly what somebody like Grey would do, you know. I mean, he's got the money, he can buy it, he can get somebody to put like the latest spyware, Trojan horses, whatever. Those electronics would be riddled with crap. It's not in the book. So yeah, I have to give that a not the same. When we talk about expensive gifts, let's talk about money. There are people with a lot of money in both stories. Dracula actually has only 3 people that do not have a ton of money. That is Jonathan, Mina, and Professor Van Helsing. Everybody else is loaded to filthy stinking rich. Lucy is a very rich heiress, and her fiancé, Arthur Holmwood, is very rich. Plus he is a lord, which is also useful. But there we are, the word useful. In Dracula, money is useful. Oh, and Dracula, of course, himself is very rich because he keeps on digging up lost treasure at St. George's Eve. Everybody is rich, and everybody in Dracula uses money as a tool. Jonathan, before he escapes, grabs a hand of gold because he needs funds, and Dracula took his letter of credit and stuff, so he couldn't get any money. He grabs a hand of gold to get him to safety and to buy transport and pay his way so he can go home. But again, it's a tool. It's a tool to get home. Not so in 50 Shades of Grey. In this book, I had the feeling, book series, I had the feeling that money was fetishized. And I use the word advisedly. This book is obsessed with the filthy, stinking rich and money and the lifestyle and the ostensibly environmentally aware Grey flying everywhere in a helicopter instead of just taking a car, or even better for the environment, public transport. But I can't travel with filthy, unwashed masses. Anastasia Steele is uncomfortable with her presence, by the way, as you should be, because a lady does not accept expensive presents from a man who is unconnected to her. But she does. So I feel this is a have your cake and eat it too scenario. The same actually as with all the sex in the story. Oh, I don't want to do that. Okay, if I have to. And I can really enjoy it because I said I didn't want to do it, but now I am doing it. I mean, the whole book is screwed up. But the money issue, it's the same thing. Oh, I don't want expensive presents. Oh, I don't want an expensive car. Okay, give me the keys. The whole book is like that. She says she doesn't want all the gifts, but she does accept it all. I don't get it. You give the presents back. You dump them at the entrance of the Grey building, whatever it is. You do not accept those gifts, but she does. Money, all the juicy money. Oh, handsome Christian and so rich. This book is obsessed with money, so that is a definite no, not similar. And just another comparison. In Dracula, Jonathan brings Mina a couple of recipes. That's his gift. Lucy gets flowers that are actually medicinal anti-vampire flowers. Nobody is lavishing, not even her fiancé, is lavishing Lucy with super expensive gifts. Yeah, no, not the same. Let's talk about sex. I would say firmly different, absolutely different. Because sex, of course, is what 50 Shades is all about. It's like, what, 80-90% smut with a very predictable, very unoriginal love abuse story attached to it. As far as Dracula goes, I know it's like very fashionable nowadays, ooh, sexy vampire and stuff. I don't see that in Dracula, but I will explain that in another video. But okay, let's take for granted the modern look at sex in Dracula. Every time Dracula sinks his teeth into somebody's neck and drinks their blood, it's doing the squelchy. If we take that as a premise, are the books the same? No, they still are not the same. Because in 50 Shades of Grey, sex is what they do. It's basically almost all they do. It's all they think about, because for some reason they are immediately incredibly sexually obsessed with each other. It's also the only thing that they have in common. They're always fighting. And weirdly in this book, negotiating. Everything is a negotiation. Everything is a fight. Even going into a car can't just be done in a simple way. They've got nothing in common except that they're obsessed with each other sexually. And so the book is only about really boring sex. Now let's take for the book Dracula that every blood-sucking session is actually a metaphor for sex. Then I would say Dracula is not interested in sex. Lucy as a vampire definitely uses, ooh, I'm so sexy. I can't do dog face, I don't have the right face, but...
Oh baby, I came to jack.
But it's a means to an end. What I get from the book is that vampires are not into sex. It's the best way to lure in, especially the male of the species. We all know that men don't have enough blood for both ends of their body. They've had scientific research into that. You show a man a picture of a good-looking, handsome woman with gigantic boobs, and their whole brain turns down about to 20%. That's why you have commercials, you know, you've got a great car, this is a great car. Is that enough? No. We'll put a half-naked woman on the bonnet. The blood goes to the lower part of his body where he makes decisions, and he says, okay, yeah, let's buy that car. Even if it's not the car that would have been a good choice. So that's what vampires do. For vampires, sex is a means to an end. What they want is blood. They want to suck you dry and then move on to the next victim. Not the same. Let's talk about victims. Christian Grey seeks out small brown-haired girls that look like his mother, which he can then abuse, punish, have sex with, suck empty with psychological abuse until he throws them away as an empty husk. Dracula in the book is far more direct. He will take any victim that is suitable, that crosses his path when he's peckish. Maybe if he has a choice, he prefers young women, but he will suck anybody's blood. Does that make him bi? Anyway, on his trip on the Demeter, there's only sailors. He eats all of them, no problem. Goes after Lucy, but I think it's mostly coincidence, and I will explain why in the video about Lucy. He does not seem to have, definitely not as much as Christian Grey. Christian Grey, small brown-haired girls that look like his mother. Dracula casts his nets much farther afield. Dracula is not that picky. Not the same. Let's talk about friends. And one of the saddest things about 50 Shades of Grey is that Anastasia does not have real friends that stand up for her. Her mother is hopeless. She is literally witness to one of Christian's most blatant stalking attempts. Oh yeah, I just wanted some peaches, so I thought I'd pop over to Georgia. Funny meeting you here. No. Instead of recognizing this as terrible stalking and rescuing her daughter, she sends her off with him. Yeah, why don't you go to his hotel room, you know? What? At that moment, I felt really sorry for Anastasia. Anastasia's friend, I forgot her name, recognizes the stalking and the red flags and the abusive behavior. Okay, that's great. You're together. That's great. You're doing great. Yeah, you know, these red flags, you know, you really need to pay attention to them. Oh, you're getting married. Awesome. They all basically send her into the trap that Christian's laying for her. Lucy has real friends who fight for her, who are willing to lay down their lives for her, who do everything they can to save her. So, not the same. Which brings us to death. I would say books are the same. Lucy dies, Anastasia Steele marries her abuser. It's even worse than just being dead. That's why they killed the vampire Lucy. There are fates that are worse than death. Bad ending, yeah, both the same. So I am surprised. I am surprised at this outcome, because when I started, I thought, yeah, there are some similarities. I mean, I can see predatory stalking behavior. That was basically everything. And then I started putting everything in a row. I am very surprised at this score that we came out. So if you want to read one of these books and you want my recommendation, I would say forgo the abuse masquerading as BDSM, masquerading as romantic stalker novel. I would say go for the amazing, very chillingly scary, ripping read classic Dracula. And here I will tell you why Dracula is such a good book. So one extra one that I didn't really add to the list is the minions. Dracula really doesn't have a minion in the book, but it's in so many movies. In the movies, it's usually Renfield. Master, whatever Master wants, Master gets. Does Master want a fresh new bride? Does Master want a new lining for his coffin? But it would be the same, because Grey does have minions. She's also like, Master, why does Master sleep in bed with you and not with us?